Your second life, it takes off when you start to just affirm the goodness of life. When you can say that life is good no matter what befalls you. So in doing that, you already give yourself the ultimate victory. You've already won by being alive. And so whatever's left is just peace. Especially if you pair this ultimate victory, this ultimate win, with the ultimate defeat. You give yourself the ultimate defeat already. And the ultimate defeat is that nothing you ever do will be sufficient. It will not be enough. And so there is nothing that is serious. There is nothing that is urgent. There is nothing that is all that important. So in doing, by affirming this, you've already given yourself the ultimate victory and the ultimate defeat. So all that remains is just equanimity, is just peace through everything. And that is pleasant, man. That is fucking pleasant. And in today's men's group, it clicked to me, we have these gender typical kind of mental illnesses. Not that they are real, but throughout time, like we've said that women are hysterical and stuff. Like, I know that's bullshit, but I think that there something similar could be said about men, that we take things too seriously in general. It's almost like symptomatic of the way men are raised, the way we have been conditioned, is we take shit just way too fucking seriously. And in doing so, we forget and we lose sight of what's really important, which is just the presence, being present with other people. I was feeling that today in the group. I was just grateful that I was with the other people, because it would have sucked to be there alone. And like it would have sucked to spend that time alone. I was grateful that I was with other people, just period. That's it, Whereas the old me would have been trying to, let's say, help them or give them advice, or I would have been fighting with them over some stupid ideas or politics or religion or any stupid disagreements over anything really. But now, man, I just realized that what's really important is just being there, man. Just being there with somebody else. That's what really matters. And then everything else is just vanity. It's just play. It's just whatever. And I believe everything, even fighting can be done from a sense of play, because ultimately nothing is all that serious, really. Life goes on, and in my father's passing, he gave me the ultimate gifts, and I'm so grateful to have received them at just the age of 32. Like it's incredible. One of those gifts was that all his expectations of me, all that died with him. So it's like now I'm truly just free to choose whatever. Truly free. Just free to do whatever the fuck I want to do with my life. And it doesn't matter, like whether I'm a janitor, whether I'm a millwright, whether I go for something better or higher. It's all just play. And what I've come to realize, it's not what I do that's important, it's how I do it. It's like action is action, whether I'm sleeping, whether I'm sweeping, whether I'm fixing a machine, whether I'm doing a screen change at work, whether I'm doing 4 screen changes at work, whether I'm reading, whether I'm talking to something, like just whether I'm cleaning. Like action is action. Like it's just one thing or another. And I don't identify with that action. I don't identify with anything that I'm doing. I am just the peace. I am the presence. I am the calm. I resonate with that. Like just being there is enough. Like that's it. And then everything I'm doing is secondary. It just flows out of me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me what I'm doing anymore. It's really more just like worship, if anything. Like I act because life comes through me, and it pours into me. And while I'm young and I have the energy, man, life comes into me, and the only way to honor it is just to keep acting, just to keep doing shit. And by doing shit well, that is the worship, that is one way to worship. And in Hindu philosophy, we have these four paths to enlightenment, which I see as four four tools in the toolbox. There's karma yoga, there's bhakti yoga, there's raja yoga, and there's jnana yoga. So jnana yoga is the knowledge piece, gaining enlightenment through knowledge. And I feel like I have the answers already, But then that knowledge was discovered through the fire of action. And I'm grateful to my trades journey. I'm grateful to being a millwright, because it was through experimenting through action, by trying different things, working, that I got to know what was important to me, that I got to know what my strengths and weaknesses were, what was important in life, getting myself to a point where I wasn't sinking, that I wasn't drowning, to where finally I could be kind of happy. So karma yoga, just finding, like, through action, through the fire of action, through that crucible, through work, that is one way, that is one of the tools in my toolbox. When I'm there at work, I don't fight it anymore. Whether it's, again, like the screen changes, those are like a terrible task I have to do at work. But now, whether somebody calls on me to do a screen change or they don't, whether they ask me to do 2 screen changes or 3 screen changes in a shift, who gives a fuck, man? Action is action. I'm still just there. I'm just present. I'm at the center of it. Action is action, man. Like, I don't identify with it anymore. So I'm grateful that I have work that tests me in that way. That can I just be at the center of it and not identify with what I'm doing. And by not fighting it, by not fighting the work anymore, it's like I have unlimited energy, unlimited, just like I don't need as much sleep anymore. I'm not fighting myself anymore, So the karma yoga, the path through work, that's one of the tools in my toolbox. Jnana yoga was through knowledge. Then there's bhakti yoga. These days I'm in my car and I just listen to devotional music, because I'm drawn towards anything and everything that keeps affirming life, keeps affirming the goodness of life, and keeping my frequency up there. Because I feel like I've realized that it's just a habit, that thoughts, it's a thought habit. Like, I had a thought habit of thinking negatively. Now I have a thought habit of thinking positively. And I sink that habit in further and further with emotion, with devotion. Right? It's like, what is learning if it's not like making things a habit? And what are the most powerful engines of learning? It's heightened emotion, it's heightened attention, heightened focus, so by listening to devotional music, by making it a practice to love a deity, to love God, to love life, to love whatever the fuck, that keeps that frequency high in my mind. It patterns my mind. It sinks in. It entrenches that thought habit of affirming life, no matter what. Okay, no matter what. So bhakti yoga, that path of devotion, that's a tool in the toolbox. And then there's raja yoga, which is technologies like meditation. So when my dad died, initially I could not sleep for like 3 days. I was just ruminating endlessly on it and breaking into tears, just could not sleep. But then I started meditating, and I remember that first day I set a timer for 10 minutes, and it felt so good. It was such bliss that I just set the timer for 30 more minutes, and I ended up meditating for 40 minutes straight, and it was incredible. It was amazing. I slept for the first time that night, and then since then I've just been meditating every single day for 2 weeks now. And I used to wonder what was the answer to the problem of attitude behavior inconsistency, or the intention action gap, or the value action gap. Like, how could it be that I could act according to my higher values? Because back then my behavior was just not lining up with what I thought on a good day, the higher values. Now I have the technology, and it's funny because it's such a simple answer, meditation. The answer was always there in my face. My mom was always urging me, like, meditate, buddy, meditate. And I never did it until recently. And now that I'm doing it, wow, man, fuck, it's like that's the one technology that lets me act throughout the rest of the day exactly the way I want to act, stemming from the values that I hold dear, my higher values. And going beyond that, it's also gives me a better way to think. When I'm meditating, it's like I'm downloading the right answers. It's a different kind of thinking. Even when I'm watchful in any state, like when I'm walking or when I'm doing a kind of a watchful meditation, these days I try to practice that. And it's like during in that state, all the right answers come to me unbidden, because it's a divergent kind of thinking. It's not convergent thinking. So to break this down a little bit, there's two types of thinking. There's like effortful thinking, and then there's the thinking that just happens when thoughts pop up into your mind. That's called the default mode network. So like when you're daydreaming, thoughts will just pop up unbidden. That's your default mode network that is shown to be just always active. It's just always a little bit active. That's like the baseline brain activity, okay? And that thinking is divergent thinking. It'll just connect things from a whole bunch of different sources. It's very creative. And so I find that the best answers are when I've been mulling over something, and then the answer just comes to me unbidden, when I'm in a watchful kind of state, and it's just not trying to think deliberately, just in a state of repose, daydreaming or something, and then the right answer just comes to me. So when I've been meditating recently, I've been finding that I'm giving myself the time, the space for answers to come to me. It's like I'm downloading the answers from a higher intelligence, and I know that intelligence is really just it's my own brain at work, without the stress, without the control I myself impose on it. And when I was in a kind of frenetic scarcity mindset before, I would try to force answers, like answers that weren't needed in the present moment. Like, for example, even something stupid like, what am I going to eat for dinner? Okay. Like, there is no need for me to entertain what I'm going to have for dinner if I'm at lunchtime, let's say, right? But when you're in that frenetic headspace where you always need an answer immediately because you need that sense of control because nothing is going your own fucking way, then you try to force the answer and you try to control your thinking, and that causes immense stress. So I was always tired, and I could not figure out what was it that was allowing my coworker to just to run on like 2 hours of sleep and still be way smarter than I was on the job. Because under stress, when my own thinking was in stress mode, I just was not seeing things. For example, we would be installing a motor and the fan would be missing, and then only this guy, thank God for this guy, he always catches things. Like, he's like, hey guys, the fan is missing on the motor. Or I have so many examples like this, like, because his mind is not shrouded by all that stress, the cortisol. He can think sanely, so soberly, and he just catches everything. And he's able to run on such low sleep, and I've been experiencing that lately, because I have no need to force my own thinking to find an answer right away. So whenever I feel any kind of confusion, I know that I can just give it a rest. Just be mindful, just breathe, practice watchfulness, like just be the observer, not the thoughts. And the answer always comes. The answer comes in a better way than I could have ever expected if I had tried to control it, And the controlled thinking now, it's for controlled thinking is for like calculation, like when you really need to go deep. So I've noticed that default mode network, like that kind of unbidden brain activity that gives me all the answers, it will not calculate things for me. Like, it will just suggest the right action to do. It will just suggest what avenue to go down, and then if I really need to calculate things and weigh things to make a calculated decision, then I can be more deliberate with my thinking, and That is a more stressful thinking that I don't practice too often. It's only when I really need it in the moment. Like, let's say I'm in a chess game or something, competing, and I need to calculate variations, right? Uh, let's just keep going, man, because it's like, when you affirm life, when you take life to be a good, when you can think that God is good, it just creates it liberates your thinking, and it taps you into a way more creative, open-ended, expansive form of thinking and living. Like, it broadens your thought action repertoire in an incredible in an incredible way. It's like I was watching a video on Sadhguru talking about this, how if you're suffering from addiction or whatever, man, like, at the very least be positive, because when you're running negative emotions through your head, there's nothing that can be done with you, because if you look at, like, what are negative thoughts for? It's like it's always running from something aversive. Like, if you touch a hot stove, you want to immediately pull away. Those are called specific action tendencies, like anger, disgust, sadness, whatever. It's all just to pull away. Just pull away from an aversive stimulus, okay? Something bad. Just pull away from something bad. So it limits you. It's a very limited, stress-induced, narrow thinking. So, for example, if you're running away from something, you'll just go to the next best thing, which is the low-lying fruit, which is like more cigarettes or alcohol or something to cope, something to feel good immediately right away. And you can't blame yourself for that, right? Whereas when you're in a positive headspace with entertaining positive emotions, man, that's a creative kind of thinking where you can really entertain the big stuff. Like, it just opens your vistas, and so it's like, let's say I'm playing a chess game, a chess parallel. If I'm competing in a tournament and I'm sitting in a shitty situation, fighting the situation, thinking, how the fuck did I get myself here? Why does everything suck? Like, why do I even play chess? Or like, why did I do this thing wrong? Then trying to find a good move from that headspace, where I'm trying to fight the reality that is in front of me, I'm not going to come up with very good answers, right? It's like I'm going to task with a divided mind that against itself, fighting myself. That's not a very resourceful, or that's not going to produce any good shit from that, right? It's like the first foundational kind of practice, if anything, is to just be okay with the reality in front of you. And in life, it's like, man, this is the game we're playing. Like, you don't get to fight the game. Like, you're in the game, so you have to learn to love it. Like, there's no other way. I mean, I wish there could be another way. Like, if you have cancer, or I don't know, like how bad it can get for some people. There was one guy in the men's group opening up about some health issues that I was thinking, what the fuck, man? If I wasn't in that situation, how would I ever, like, be okay with that situation, still keep going? Like, it's what some people go through, man. It's just insane. It's insane. But still, if you fight it, you're never gonna tap into your best self, all your resources at your disposal. The first practice of making full use of your resources is to be okay with the reality in front of you, to see it as a net good. And that is, to me, is the original religion. That is the ultimate religion, the only religion, the one thing that perhaps all religions have in common. Is to affirm that God is good. That is the baseline, man. That is the starting point for everything good that comes after. It's and yeah, like, we want, when it comes to people who are truly suffering tragic things, who are truly undergoing traumas, we have this intuitive sense that they should have some claim to wisdom that other people don't have, that there should be some kind of payoff, some kind of ultimate good in their suffering. Like, that they should have some kind of privilege if they're privy to that experience of tragedy, right? And that intuition, I think, is right, but we've taken it in its half-truth. So now you have all these people vice signaling that, and whoever's most oppressed, whoever's suffering the worst tragedy, like, like, by complaining about it the hardest, We give them epistemic privilege, moral privilege, all these sorts of privilege, as if in and of itself that's a virtue. But I've come to realize that that's a half-truth. The real privilege afforded to such a person is when they pair their suffering with the affirmation of that life is still good. That is the real virtue. That is the real gift to everybody else. When some guy is sitting in my men's group and he's talking about the insane shit he has to deal with, or she or whoever, the insane shit they have to deal with, and still they are willing, they are ready to say that life is good, that it's okay, that I'm still enjoying my life, what I can of it, like that they can still hold their head up, like that is the virtue. And there I am fully prepared to give them all epistemic privilege, all moral privilege, and I'm willing to defer, bow my head to them, and learn from them. That is the ultimate pairing. And so it makes sense that Bible's saying, like that it's harder for a rich man to get through the gates of hell than it is for a camel to get through the eye of a needle. It makes sense to me because, right now when everything is going my way, when things are so good, it's easy for me to say that life is good. But who's to say how my tune might change if I were to undergo something like cancer or to lose everything? I don't know, right? It's a flimsy kind of enlightenment. And so my worship, my commitment is to keep trying to affirm this goodness of life, the goodness of God, the goodness of everything, that I'm on the prophet side of everything, that I've already won the ultimate victory. To affirm all this and keep it real in my life, that is the worship for me. That is my ultimate religion. And I use things like meditation and devotional music and stuff to keep that thought habit high in my mind, right? But beyond that, there's another sense in which it is easier to kind of to be at a higher level of enlightenment if you don't have things going for you. And that is because, I get caught identifying with things when they are going my way. Like, let's say I have good health, or I have money, or I have looks, or even thinking that I'm enlightened in some way. As soon as I start thinking this, I notice my presence start to drift. And it's like I become at odds with it's like I'm just not at ease anymore. I can feel it in my bodily tension. Like that is the first sign. It's when somehow I'm not melding into my immediate environment with around people. If there's something there like in between us, if I'm not able to relax into presence around other people, that is the first sign to me that I've begun to take things too importantly, too seriously, that there's something that I'm taking too importantly. And likely as not, it's always the good shit, funnily enough. It's easy for me to affirm that life is good when I'm at my low points. Ironically, that's like it's actually funny that when shit is down and out, then I'm like, okay, fuck it, man, fuck it, just whatever, life is still good. Like I can, and it might be harder to get around to that message, but once I do, it's easier to lock it in because it's just easier. Nothing gets in the way, But when things are going my way, then time and time again, I drift off into identifying with the things that are good, and it becomes a vanity project, right? You start to think that life is good because I'm enlightened. You start thinking life is good because I'm rich, because I'm good looking, because I'm healthy, because I feel this good in my body. But that is still vanity. That is still vanity. And it takes you away from presence. And then the actions that flow out of you are necessarily adulterated. They're fucked up in some way. So one of the practices for me is to how to remain humble, how to divorce how to not identify with the actions that I'm doing. Because action is action, man. Whether I'm sweeping a floor, whether I'm broke, whether I'm homeless, whether I'm in a hospital bed, or even when I'm achieving things, when I'm whatever it is, action is action, life is life, and it comes and goes, it is and it isn't. It's and it necessarily is not sufficient. None of it none of it at the end of the day is sufficient, because you're here one day and then you're not. You're here one day and then you're gone, and there's nothing. There is nothing, and it's over before you can even think about it. Like one day you're sitting there worrying about your health and exercising and taking care of yourself, being fit and healthy, taking care of everything, ticking all the boxes, and then you fall off a stool and you're lying there in a puddle of blood for a week before the cops find you. That is life. That is fucking life. That is how I found my dad. So at the end of the day, man, everything you do, you've already won and you've already lost. You've already won because you're on the profit side of life. You're here when there could be nothing. You're here, you've already won. But you've already lost because nothing you ever do will be enough. So everything that remains is just peace, man. It's just peace. It's just presence. It's being at the center of everything. And you know, even though my dad died, even though Kareem died, that I did not die. It's like, this is just, I guess, the final thought to wrap up this video on probably. It's just that I am just a wave in a trajectory of waves, as Buddha said. It's like, why is it that at age 32 I have all the answers? Why is it that at age 32 I'm so lucky? Why is it that I can just think and manifest things? It's not by virtue of me, not by virtue of Omar. It's just that I am at this stage of evolution. Whatever my dad started, whatever my mom started, the people in my men's group, the way they helped me, the fact that I'm living in Canada where things are easy, where I don't have to worry about shit. I don't have to worry about getting killed the next day, like probably not, or like, you know, it's like I'm just at this point in the blossoming of something greater than myself, and I just run with that. It's like the torch was passed to me, and I just run with it, man. I'm just fucking running with it. That's it. And when I'm gone, man, like there'll be somebody else saying I'm doing this, I'm doing that, whatever. It's just, life goes on, man. Life goes on. Omar will die, but I will not die. That's really it, man. That's like everything in one video, I guess. Had to put it out there at some point, you know? Just even for myself to look back one day, if I ever lose the thread, if I ever go back to my old ways, get sucked into the vanity project again, and try to feel too good about everything that I'm doing, and I forget to be present, here it is in this video form, like just documented, you know, like, yeah.